All right. Hello, everybody in internet universe. My name is Zak Ward, and joined here by Chris Cookie, who mixed and mastered this song. Here to do something a little different, and actually talk to you about the song, and then also going into the mixing and mastering process. Why not? We're still waiting things out. So this song is called Your Last Dream. And believe it or not, this song came from a real life thing that I went through about 12 years ago or so. A friend of mine, pretty good friend of mine, his mom, unfortunately, got real sick, and she was in hospice towards the end, unfortunately. And I wanted to come up and see Chris, and his name was Chris, and give him some comfort. I've been through a few funerals in my day, and when I got to the I don't even know what they call it nowadays, but her room, I should say, that the nurses kind of just they pull up a chair and had me sit next to his mom, and she's like, yeah, just talk to her, she's it's fine. And apparently security was real tight. Hello, why was but I knew his mom, and it was it was really sad, and it hurt for me seeing him go through that. And I didn't know what to say, because I knew her, but I wasn't super close with her. So the only thing I could think about was just holding her hand. She was unaudible, so she wasn't talking. She kind of had she just wasn't audible. Let's put it that way. So I just held her hand, because I figured that's what I'd want somebody to do to me. And that's where that whole thing came from. And that experience with her just kind of lived in me somehow, and I just kept thinking about it. And I was just sitting around with my ukulele and had this melody. I always tend to write the music first, and the words. I don't know, this is how you do it, but then kind of the words come that way for me. And I'll Hold Your Hand for Your Last Dream was specifically to that experience, because I held her hand. So coupled with that experience, what I had with my own family, and then also just wanting to have a more whimsical, loving environment, like it romanticize that someone is passing away, but it's a beautiful thing. That's what this song was about specifically. And
love it.
It's a short one. It's certainly a short one, but real powerful to me. So before we get into Chris's contribution, which was as equal as anybody else's, I do want to make mention that this was recorded in two different studios. Mine, which I've kind of started calling the Two-Hearted Studio. And Christopher Zielinski came here with this upright bass, and that's what you hear in that. And then the drums from Chuck Mauk, of course. He's done almost everything for me. At the Happy Hands recording studio, which is his drum recording studio. So the process has always been, with the way, we have kids and families and all that kind of stuff, is I record my home studio here in the universe, and I send it off to Chuck, and we talk about drums, and then he sends back 85 different microphones from his one drum set. And I think there's even a microphone in his attic somewhere that catches a little oomph. Awesome. But anyway, he brings that back, and then I always kind of build upon that. Sometimes Chuck takes a couple passes at it, but that's just what happens, as we know in the business. That's just what happens. Chuck's he's a drummer. He's a drum studio, so he services drums for people in Australia to all over the United States, and real lucky to have him as not only a friend but a resource. That's really cool because his thing's set up for it. I mean, any drummer can walk in there, especially if you're left-handed, and you are good to go. So from there, I tracked the three clarinets, the vibes, and 3 or 4 tracks of ukulele, I think. Is that what I did? But just before we get into that, Chris, who's here with me, and you can find him at cookiesuttle.com for your recording needs, or mixing and mastering for like I did. Yeah, so I took the tracks, all individual WAV files, one for the voice, one for this, one for that, and sent them to you. And then what was your process? Did it take a minute to acclimate, or?
Not really. I mean, first, let me thanks for having me on here. I think I've been kind of on you for a while about mixing one of your songs. I've liked your music for a while now. So no, I pulled it up, and I definitely got the vibe of what you were going for, and it came at kind of an appropriate time because I think you sent this to me in April, and as I was working on it, it was around the time of what would have been my grandpa's birthday.
Okay.
And he died back in 2001, but I think about him still a lot, and it's weird.
Yeah.
Even when he was alive, I didn't see him that much, but I always felt very close to him. So, I think it was just very appropriate. It brought up a lot of feelings. So, which isn't a bad thing,
Right.
But it definitely helped, I think, kind of set the mood. And as I was listening to the song, I just kept picturing the Smashing Pumpkins album cover, Melancholy and Infinite Sadness. So I wanted to make the mix sound like that album cover. So that's what I just kind of pictured in my head.
And actually, I probably should make mention, because I forgot to make the slide now that I think about it, that Mikey from Ink and Iron Tattoo here in Toledo, Ohio, made the album cover. And
yeah, I love it.
And that was one of the things that we did discuss, was that melancholy thing. That's ironic. It's a weird, it's bizarre for me that that's what popped in your head, because that's kind of what I was thinking as well.
Yeah, and when I pulled up the session, one thing I noticed is everything was really well recorded. It wasn't overdone with a million tracks. Like I mix a lot of stuff for other people, and I'll get sometimes just sent 1,000 tracks of just stuff, and a lot of times it's garbage. You just got to sort through and just end up just muting 80% of it because it's kind of pointless. So, and I think with less tracks, it's easier to kind of create a sonic landscape, if you will. So I really enjoyed that. Do you want me to pull up the session here and
show yeah, let's do it.
Now let me share screen. Don't show these tips again. Okay. All right, you getting me?
Yep, we're there.
Okay, so first thing I do whenever I pull up a session, I just organize it. I like to color code my tracks. Drums I typically have in red. Bass is always blue, I guess because it starts with B. A lot of my mid-range instruments, typically guitars, I always put in orange. In this case, we did all the ukes in there. And clarinet and celesta, I really didn't know, so I just picked random colors. And my vocals, I always just pick a color that strikes me at the time. So for that amount of useless information, there you go. And when I mix, I kind of have a template I import into just about every mix that I do. And that just saves me some time because I automatically kind of sets up my subgroups with the plugins that I like. And especially on the master bus, which I can go through in a minute, which does a ton of flavoring. But yeah, everything, the drums, were recorded very well. I didn't do a whole lot to them because not much needed done. Like,
Did you use all the drum tracks?
um,
Because some of them I muted when I was just
yes. So let me double check, make sure.
because Truck gives you just so much data.
Yeah. No, from what you sent me, these are all the drum tracks that you sent me. So I ended up
Nice.
using them all. And the one that I did probably the most to was the mono room, and I'll show you that here in a second. But like for the most of it, like I put like a tape plug in on all of them, just because the Slate tape machine, which I love. It just sounds great and adds fatness to everything. And
The Neve.
the Neve I put because a lot of times, depending on the song, I'll kind of pick a flavor how I want to do the mix. And the Neves, I think, are just more warm and more bottomy and tubby, and I wanted that kind of just vibe. So with EQ, I didn't do much here on the snare. I boosted a little bit of 7K and high pass it at 80, and then I like to crank the input so to get in the red a little bit, just add a little extra harmonic distortion. And that, like I said, I didn't do a whole lot. Let's see, no overheads, just opened up the air a little bit.
Nice.
And the mono room, let's see what I do on here. I boosted a little bit of bottom end and I added drive. So let me listen. So I'll play this back for you. That's the whole mix. Now, if I play back the mono room, let's bypass this plugin for now and play it back. Sorry, let me solo it. So it sounds really good.
Yeah.
I put it in drive. So here's what we did. And I don't know if you can tell over this connection, but it just adds a little distortion, a little
grit,
and nastiness to it. And probably the most important thing I do with 90% of my drums is I put the whole group through a distressor. Back when I was running a studio, I had a couple of these, and they were my favorite to run drum tracks through. And so I now mix all in the box. Excuse me. And so I just run the whole drum mix through here. And let's
that's
see.
UA.
It is.
Oh, wow.
See if I can sew up all the drums here. Blah 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 blah. So if I bypass it,
right?
It still sounds good, but
yeah,
it's bringing out a lot of the subtlety of the drums and adding probably a little bit of dirt to it as well. So sometimes, depending on the mix, I might add more to it. I might EQ it a little bit, but I didn't think it needed much there, so I just kind of left it alone. And then bass, same kind of thing. I did tape machine. I typically 90% of the time go straight into a DBX 160.
Okay.
It sounds so good on bass. And if I it's just knocking it back a little bit, and it adds a little bit of oomph to it. And then it looks like here, yeah. So here on bass, I rolled off the high end, all the up to 3K. So it didn't have like a whole lot of slap or anything into it, but just got rid of it because it wasn't needed and created space for other things. And then I put it through a Neve EQ again. And boost a little bit of mid-range. A lot of people, I think, don't realize that a lot of the bass tone comes from the mids, and that's where you get I feel like a lot of definition.
Right.
So I'll boost that a little bit, and Tried to use this Ship 73 Neve channel on just about everything. Keys, won't really go through that other than with the keys subgroup.
Now, this is the one thing that we really did, I think, made the biggest difference.
That's right, because we added some verb and delay.
Yeah.
On this guy, so we had to delay. So what I did was, so let's solo this guy.
Yeah.
The bypass, that's it.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah. And the space echo adds a little bit of
yeah.
By the name.
See, this is what got me like icing on the cake for a couple of things that you did. And that's why part of the reason I wanted to do this with you today was to kind of show other people too, especially home recorders that just do it at home and then publish their own stuff, which great if you can do it. I mean, more power to you. But just like any type of sports team, the more people you got involved that are focused and are team members, the better outcome it was. So when I passed these tracks on to you and you did the first mix, that's what I was thinking. I was like, man, wouldn't it be? I wonder what it'd sound like if we did put some like verb or chorus or something on those vibes, only because they were there, and they sounded good in my opinion, because all I was doing is just rolling each one, bring each chord, I would just roll it. And when you came back with that, it instantly gave me this like OK Computer vibe.
Yeah.
And now, am I wrong to say that? Yes, I absolutely am wrong to say that. But that's what it felt like to me, and that's one of my favorite albums, and it completely transformed the whole song for me because of what you did. And not to go too fast forward, but the ending that you came up with that I had nothing to do with, that just seemed like it summed everything together. But anyway, vibes. Is this a setting or a plugin that you used before, or did you really have to like noodle around to find something?
No, I use Sound Toys Echo Boy in just about every mix I do.
Yeah.
It's, in my opinion, the absolute best delay plugin there is. And you can do, and it's cool because it's easy to use and easy to recall settings. Like I can go here and pick up like any kind of vibe I want and then adjust the from there. And it's just so easy. And it just sounds good. Like,
what did you think when you added that down? Did it add to the track, or did you were indifferent?
No, I loved it. It was definitely, I think, a helpful thing. So it's cool when you can be collaborative because you just never know. And sometimes when you're mixing something for somebody and you send that first mix, it's super nerve-wracking because it's something they put their heart and soul into and they're used to hearing it a certain way. And I'm going to come in with my version of it, and I'm afraid to piss people off sometimes. So
my part of that, especially with Chuck and the drummer, at first I used to get really like nervous or whatever, but he is a pro, and just like you, when you turn the stuff over, you let people do their job. Let people use the talents that they've acquired.
Absolutely.
And I literally, when I take the reins off and just pass it on to the person, because the way I see songs, they end up being or can be a part of anybody involved as much as they want to be a part of it. Who knows? Maybe Chris played that bass line when he came over and doesn't care about it for the rest of his life. Maybe Chuck played those drums and he keeps hearing it every time something happens. You know what I mean? I don't know, but as far as I'm concerned, it's everybody's song in that regard.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I think it's also less stressful that way. It's sometimes hard to let people, use their talents, but that's one thing that I've really enjoyed as, my music career, everything is kind of, progressed a little bit. It's just being able to delegate stuff to people and put people in the right positions to succeed.
Right.
Because I'm the kind of person that wants to take everything on myself, and I've had to kind of let that go, and it's very freeing. And it's a positive thing for sure.
So what else we got on this thing before we?
Yeah, so, all the keys that, and I ended up putting the clarinet.
Yeah, what did you do with the clarinet? 'Cause I didn't know.
So I did a Abbey Road Chambers reverb on it and a little bit of
Okay.
EQ into that. So, I
See,
got
I found that plugin to be awesome, but my God, on my computer, it just sucked all of my resources.
really?
Yeah, it was a resource hog. But I have a Mac Mini, so it's
Okay.
not.
Yeah, I'm on a MacBook Pro right now, and I do, a lot of times when I'm mixing, I'll freeze tracks just to free up some DSP because
Yeah.
some stuff. This one wasn't too bad, and on this one, it doesn't really look like I did anything EQ wise, except probably just put it in for a little bit of neat vibe, and that was it. And I went through the Abbey Road.
Yeah, that really made a difference.
So, Steed. I was gonna say. So yeah, that wasn't too complicated. Didn't do a whole lot there. The ukes were fun to do because basically we had right here. Let's see. Let's bring them up here. Here we go.
Yeah.
So you had like rhythm ukes, and a lead uke.
Yeah.
And so I panned the basic ukes left and right, and basically just a high pass filter on those. And this is the way I'll treat a lot of guitar solos, is with this Kramer Pi.
Okay.
You
Compressor.
put that guy in, and it does this cool like sheen. It's just all right. So here's the. So let's just solo up the lead uke here. That's shredding. So if I bypass this,
Nice.
you can see it. So it's not, it's fine. This is just
Looks a little extra character.
Yeah, a little extra character, and especially for guitar solos, it's just amazing. And then EQ wise, the philosophy here was get rid of maybe some mud.
Yeah.
So put that back in. And then just threw the Neve in here for just pretending I'm running through a Neve console, essentially. Everything was recorded very well, so I didn't have to do a whole lot of like fixing EQ. It was all flavor EQ and stuff. And same thing, I sent all the ukes through the one of my favorite reverbs, the little plate.
Oh yeah.
From Sound Toys. And I like to do the Beatles Abbey Road thing. I roll off the top end and the low end before it hits the reverb.
Yeah.
So you're not getting any tinniness. You're just getting all the goofiness.
How often do you have to mix 3 clarinets, upright bass, and a ukulele?
I'd say one a month starting last month.
Oh, I mean, the thing that was challenging at first was like, how in the world do I approach recording this upright bass? Because even going through because I use the SSL in my Unison, to track most everything. Because why would you not? And trying to find a reasonable sound with the upright was a little tough. I'm glad that you made that whole bass track work immensely. But yeah, it was a little challenging there. Well, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's fun. Like, this is one of the things I really enjoyed about it so different. It wasn't drums, 2 guitars, bass, a million vocals. which there's nothing wrong with that, but it was just a whole different thing to be working on.
Well, I really think that you did a monstrous, fantastic job, and you really made the song come to life, in my opinion. Yeah, man. I mean, that's the one thing part of the reason why I want, like I said earlier, I want to do this with you is when most people, I would suggest, probably don't see this side of the recording. They'll see, an Instagram post of their favorite people sitting in a studio, playing in front of a microphone, whatever it is. But having the ingredients is one thing. And I've always felt like getting all the tracks for the different ingredients. Now you need to put in the oven and bake it. And that there's so many different variables to that, the temperature, the length, and you know what I mean? And it's so important. I'm glad. I hope anybody that's watching this that is somewhat like impressed, intrigued, whoever, please share, like, and if you have projects that you have recorded that you'd like to have polished up and finished off, we have Cookie's website right there on the screen, and then obviously there'll be links and stuff. We're pre-recording this, being proactive. The single hopefully will be out in the next couple of days, hitting all the major, spots, iTunes, Google, all that business. So you lovely person watching the video, you can see how much goes into this stuff. And so if you feel inclined to purchase the song, put it on a playlist, I guess. Is that what people do nowadays?
I think so. I think that's what the kids do.
Yeah. You just released a song with your wife. What was the name, and where can they find that?
So,
because I love it. I bought it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, appreciate that. It's called Pissed Off and Reckless. My wife is Jamie Suttle, Suttle, Jamie Suttle. And if you go to jamiesuttle.com, that'll get you to pretty much all your favorite music sites, and there's direct links to that. But you can also just search Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you get your music. And yeah, that was a cool one. We actually did that one in.
It's on my phone, but yeah. There you go, folks. That's the new one. But really, and the mixing on that is phenomenal.
I can't take credit for that one. And this goes back to, we were talking about letting other people do their thing. Is that I'm not the best country producer, and Jamie had some song ideas, and sometimes working with your spouse, can be difficult. Love you, honey. So we found a guy named Micah, who he's the guitar player for Need to Breathe down in South Carolina.
Okay.
He produced it, and he played guitar on it and mixed it, and I let them do that. Like,
hey, it sounds great.
And, because Jamie had an idea, and, there's one thing we tried writing it, and I wasn't getting the vibe she was wanting. So I was like, let's find the right people for the job. My ego isn't too big that I can't let that happen. So
that's the key, man. That's what we're trying to tell you.
Yep. You got it.
Well, cool, man. I am going to thank you once again, and thanks for taking the time. And hopefully,
absolutely,
listener, you'll share it. Why not?
Like, and caring.
Yeah, I'm gonna now. Without any further ado, the song is gonna play right after we're done here. So, hang tight, and thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch, man.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Here you go.
All right.
Thought that we would ever say goodbye. through my love, it was you by my side. I'll hold your hand for your last dream. As the stars and moon shine one last time, and all this love you can't deny. As you sleep, all these tears fill my eyes. I'll hold your hand. It's